All right, welcome. So we have finally reached the part 3 where we finally start making making this Starfield that we've heard so much about. So the first thing we need to do, we've got these three things. I think let's have three different materials so we can make a whole bunch of different colors of stars. So in the last one I showed you that we would duplicate it. So let's actually come in here and we have Star Material 2, and we'll control D, Star Material 3. Let's actually name this Star Material 1 so that we keep a naming convention. So I'm going to hit F2, and I'm going to name it Star Material 1. All right, so now we have these three materials. And I don't know why my inspector died, but we're going to double click and let's make the first one bright red. For color 1, and we'll just pick opposite colors, right? So red, and let's make this one, if it's already green, let's make it super bright green. Red and green, and Star Material 2 will be orange. I think that's a pretty good orange, right? It's a nice bright orange. So, I think that's pretty orange. What do we think? I think that's orangey enough. Orange and blue. So let's see, no red, no green, all blue. All right. And then let's make Star Material 3. What is it? What are we missing? Yellow. So red and green make yellow. And purple. So red and blue should make a decent purple. All right. Cool. So we've got our three colors. And now we need to instantiate a mesh. And so that's going to be the course of this. Is first we're going to instantiate one, and then we're going to make the field. So in order to do that, we need a script. So let us come up here and make a new script, and we will call it starfield.gd and hit create. All right. So we need to instantiate one. And so what do we need? Well, we need a mesh instance. So let us come to our ready function. Func. And let me make this bigger for you guys to see a lot easier. Hopefully that's big enough. Ooh, really big. Okay, func ready. And we need to make a new mesh instance. So we are going to call it var mesh instance star. Oh, I guess let's use all lowercase mi star, and that's going to colon equal new or mesh instance 3D dot new. And remember, so we've now sort of made this new mesh instance, and this is what we're going to use to hold our color. And let us do one more thing. Now that we made our mesh instance, well, what else did we have to do? Let's come back and remind ourselves of what we had to do. So we made a mesh instance, and then the mesh instance needs to be assigned a material. Well, fortunately, we have these three materials down here. So let us pull in Star Material 1, and I'm going to hold down Control and let it go, and we're going to create this star material. And let's give it a better name. Oh, no, that's fine. Star Material 1. All right, it's going to preload that asset for us. So now we need to assign the mesh parameter, property to that. So we come down to mi star and we hit dot, and we should have a mesh, and we're going to set it equal to Star Material 1. All right. Oh, why are you complaining? Cannot be assigned to... Oh, because that's a material. I am an idiot. All right, so let's come back for that. Trying to start a material to a mesh, we need the mesh itself. So let us come to our star mesh and pull it in and put it over the star material, because that's the most important thing. And I definitely do not want to call it star sphere 001, so I'm going to call it star mesh. And so we are going to assign a star mesh to equal a mesh. And hopefully that will work. And it does. All right, so we've now assigned a mesh. Well, let's come back. So over here in our inspector, we remember we did our mesh, and then we had to assign it a material. And so the next thing we need to do is make a material. So mi star dot mesh. So we got the mesh. Oh no, I'm sorry, excuse me, geometry material override. So we should have a material override. And we do, in fact, the second one down, material override. And we are going to set the material override this time to star material 1. And we've got it. Okay. So now we've created a new mesh instance. And we have the mi star mesh. We have the star mesh assigned to the mesh spot, and we have a material set. So we should have everything we need to make a star. And let us now remember in Godot, once we instantiate an object, whether it's a preload or we use a scene and we use instantiate for that scene, we need to add that to the star field. Or we need to add it to the node tree, the scene tree. And if we don't add it to the scene tree, then it's not going to get displayed. So I mean, I could show you. So we don't have that yet. So all right. So let's add it to the scene tree, shall we? So we're just going to add child and mi star. Cool. We have made a star, but okay, I'm going to hit play. And we're going to see this. Awesome. Let's see. Let's select the current scene, which should be this Starfield scene. And we see nothing. And why do we see nothing? Well, we don't have a camera. We don't have a 3D controller. We don't have any of this stuff. But I want to see it now. I don't want to have to make a 3D controller in this tutorial too, because, I mean, that's enough of a headache. So I just want to create the Starfield and see it. So I want this script to somehow run in the editor so that I can see it. And the easiest way to do that is we just add the @tool function to the top, and boom, we have created a tool. And the tool is code that runs in the editor. Now you can do wild and crazy and amazing things with the tool function. This is as far as we're going to go, at least in this tutorial, about making a tool. But now the script runs in the editor. Now we're going to save it. And we're going to come to our 3D viewport, and we are going to see nothing. Let's delete this star right in the middle, since we don't have a transform set, and nothing's happening. Dang, but I promised you that the tool ran in the editor, so this is just an annoying feature. Even after we save it, nothing happens. But if we close the star field and we reopen the scene, look at that! We have a new ball there, and we deleted it, and I don't even see it in our scene tree, but it's there. And look, it's turning from red to yellow to green. Even if I delete all these other stars, delete them, look, nothing, and yet it's there because we created a instantiated thing and we're running it in the editor. So now we can see what we're doing. And fortunately, I didn't do anything too terrible because we haven't broken my FPS yet. So that's always reassuring. It does drop a little bit when we look at the center. But there we go. All right. So now we just have to make a whole bunch more of these. So let's do that. Let's make another star. So we'll just copy this code and we'll paste it, and we'll call this mi star 2. But remember, we're making a new instance of it, and we are applying the same mesh, right? We're going to be using the same mesh, or let's use that other material. and we're going to add the child. Oop, did I make star material? Oh, I haven't done that yet, so let's come in here and let's just add these other two. So star material 2 and star material 3. And let's assign star 2, star material 2, and we'll add this new, oh, so be careful, because it was about to, that's the trouble with cutting and pasting, right? You might miss something, and I was about to add the same mesh, and we were going to end up with the same thing. So let's just save this here. Let's hit, let's not hit play, because that's not going to happen, and we don't see any difference, because again, anytime we change the code on the tool, we have to close it, and we have to reopen it, and now we realize the problem. So the next issue that we have is we are placing these all at the same spot. So let's see, I want to make this one, let's move it in the Z direction a little bit. So now we have to come in here and we have to decide, all right, so I want to move this object a little. So let us do mi star dot, and remember, mesh instances have transforms, so we need to set or position, right? So we can set our position to equal, and we remember we're in 3D, so we need a vector 3, and I'm going to set it to 0 in the X, 0 in the Y, and let's do 5 in the Z. And we're going to come back to our editor, and we're not going to see any changes because we have to close it and we have to reopen it. Sorry, that part does get a little tedious, so maybe you do want to make yourself a script. Oop, did I not close it? Let's see. Okay. Huh. You did not open, and I don't see any errors in the debugger. So what is happening here? mi star 2, we're going to add the child, we set its position, mi star dot material override equals star material 2. We are instantiating this. We're going to save this, and we're going to close this, and we are going to reopen it, and we're going to go to a 3D viewport. Oh, and we have it. We have ourselves a nice new star, but we don't have our original star. Why do we not have our original star? Oh, right. Because cutting and pasting code is bad. So we definitely need to refactor this, because I am just moving both of our star meshes to that area. So let's do this and come in here, and we're going to hit Control S, and now we are going to come into our 3D viewport, and nothing's happened, but we're going to close it, and we are going to reopen it. And now we have our two stars, both instantiated. Both don't even exist in our scene tree until it runs the code. But this one is going from red to yellow to green. Let's move that a little faster. And this one is going from yellow to kind of pink to, I guess that's our blue with the glow edition. But there we have it, yellow, white, and green, or excuse me, and blue, and we can come and make a new star. Let's just move. This is just already bad, and let's see. And I'm going to do mi star. Oh, let's use the magic of the editor. Alt clicking. I'm alt clicking, and I'm going to change all of these to 3, and I'm going to change this to 3, and we're going to hit save, and I'm going to move this to 10. I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to close, and I'm going to reopen you, and I'm going to come back to the 3D viewport, and now we have 3 different ones, each in theory with different colors, although it is Not looking like we have 3 different colors, is it? By any stretch of the imagination. So let me make sure I didn't botch this. So let's open up Star Material. One is in fact red and green. And this one is yellow and this one is oh. Well, that's... Did I mess up? Red and green, yellow and... Is this supposed to be orange? No, that's yellow. Yellow and purple. That's right. And 3 should be... Oh, I guess this didn't save, so this is going to be orange. Orange. Oh, we want this much brighter. So let's make our red all the way up. And our yellow. And this to there. And blue to nothing. And blue maybe right around there. And that's a nice orange color. And we will... Oh, it looks more brown than orange, huh? Oh, there we go. That's orange enough. Orange enough for government work. Orange, and this should be straight blue. All right, so now we finally have some different colors. Did I mess this up again? Oh, that's... What? Wait a minute. Oh, I didn't double click. Oh, so be careful with that. So Star Material 1 is that. That's yellow and purple, and that is orange and blue. Okay, but we have our working stars, and we're instantiating them. So huzzah! All right. Now we need to make a field of these things, right? We don't want to, even the stage one by one, cutting and pasting. We're gonna be a mess. So let us undo this. Now that we know we are succeeded, we're gonna keep at least the first code for mi star. And how are we gonna do this? Well, let's just make a big loop, shall we? And I want some control over this. So I want to add an export variable that I can change the number of stars. So I'm going to do @export, and I'm going to give it a name. Let us do star num stars colon equals 0. Oop, export var num stars colon equals 0. And we need a for loop for I in range 0 to num stars. Let's do this. And let's indent you all. All right, so now we're going to be looping over a number of stars, and we can change that variable as we decide. And so let us decide how many. Let's actually instead let's do 200 stars to start out with. 0 is a lame number. So we're going to go from 0 to 200, so doing 200 runs of this, and we are going to be instantiating this mesh. But as you can imagine, all of these two materials we can keep the same, although I'll show you how we can choose different ones in a second. But let's at least start by making 200 of the same exact star type. So we're going to keep making new mesh instances. This mi star is going to keep getting assigned to new ones, but we're going to assign each of those new mesh instances to a star mesh, add it, and then reassign it to a brand new one each and every time. So we're going to be making 200 mesh instances, and that's perfectly fine. Let us go through this. And the problem is, right, we're at where we're at right now is we're just going to put 200 in exactly the same spot, right in the dead center. So we're going to have 200 stars. It's not going to really matter because we're not going to see them. So we need to create a little bit of a field. We need different vector 3 positions for each of these. And so I am going to create another export variable. And we're going to name this one, what should we call it? We should call it Starfield. Let's call it Starfield X. And we can set that to be, let's say, I want these spread over, let's say, a 50-meter radius. So we'll do that, and numstars is an int, so that's fine, but the Starfield distance, since it's a vector 3, we'll make that a float. And I'm just going to come here and do this and make this x, y, and z. So now we have at least a range that we can put these in. Now, if we just plug these numbers in, though, we are going to be getting all of them placed at 50, 50, 50. So we'll instead of move the problem from 0, 0, 0 to 50, 50, 50. So what are we going to use these numbers for? I think you probably guessed it, a rand. So we are going to create a random position. So we're going to do var, and I think it doesn't matter for vectors because they are inherent objects, so it doesn't matter, but just to make sure we're not, we'll call this star position, and we'll set that to a vector 3. And we are going to say that star pos equals vector 3, and we are going to make it from a random, and so we're going to do here, let's give ourselves some space. So we'll do rand f range, so random float range from, let's do negative Starfield x to positive, you don't need the plus, so Starfield x. So this is going to the x position in the vector 3 when we make it. So if you hit space, control space, you'll see we're at the x component, y component, and z component. So we need to feed it those 3, and we'll hit a comma. And now we're at the y float, so we'll do rand f range negative star field y, comma star field y, and another comma. And I'm just gonna copy this, and we're gonna just do boop and delete and z, and we are done. And so now we just need to close off this vector. So now we've created a vector with a random range between these two values. So we will get a cube, ideally, of these stars. And we're going to, after each star, we need to set this position. So we need to set mi star dot position equal to our star pos. And now we have set the position to this random vector 3 that we've made each time. All right, so now that we've set the position to this vector 3 that we've created, ideally it'll run through this for loop and keep adding these new mesh instances with random positions each time to it if everything goes well. So let us see if this works. All right, so we're gonna save it. I think we saved it. And sorry, I had to take a little pause, talk to my child, who's actually a man now, and let us come back to our 3D field, and we have to close it and open it. So we're going to close it, and we are going to reopen it, and look at that. We have stars, and they're all using that same material, but hey, we have stars, and it is still running pretty well with our 250 stars. Of course, we have this sun here, and let's make this look cool and turn this into space. So that's going to be easy. We just turn off the sun and turn off the world environment, and it's gray space. Okay, well, let's make it black space, because gray space is sad and space is not gray. So let us go to project and project settings, I want to say, and I think it is called clear color or default clear color. Let's see, clear color. Okay, rendering, environment, and I don't know, is it there if we turn on the advanced settings? I actually don't know the answer to that, but my advanced settings are on, and the default clear color, as you can see, is this sad looking gray, and we're just going to dial that back down to black. And as you can see, we now have this lovely field of bright green balls, which is not quite what we want, but they do turn this lovely color orange as we get closer and further away. So let's see if we can improve on this a little bit, because these do not quite look like stars yet, but we are close. I promise you we are close. So a few other things we need to do. So one of them is we need to set those parameters on our mesh instance. Remember when we were doing our on our shader? Remember how we were doing those things? So now we need to start setting those, and we need values that we can use and change in the inspector. So if we come back to the inspector, you can see when we click on our Starfield, we do have these numbers. Now I don't think, unfortunately, you're still going to have to close and open them. Let's say we do, 500 stars. Unfortunately, it doesn't automatically do it, but we can set the distance, so we can do 500 stars, or let's do like 1,000 stars, and let's do a distance of 100 and 100 and 100. And we can save our changes, close, and read open. And we now have this easy way of updating those. But we also want to be able to adjust our shader parameters so we can have a look every time we open and close it, so we can fly around our Starfield. And you can actually see that the bounding box has increased to accommodate all of the nodes we've placed. But this is starting to look cool, isn't it? All right. So now we have to first thing, let's do the rainbow. So I promised that. So we do have these other two materials, and so how can we kind of choose which material to load? And we can do we can create an array. Let's do it in head of the for loop, so we're not creating an array every time, but we could do, oh boy, it's been a little bit since I've done this, honestly, so let's see if we can one-shot this. But let's see, material array, and we can set it equal to, let us set it equal, or a list, or we can set it equal to star material 1, comma, star material 2, and star material 3. And I believe we can do a random choice. So in the material, we want to make it some sort of, we want to pick from one of these three. So we can do, I think, random. Let's see. Is it on the actual array? Let's see, equals material array dot choice random. Pick random. There we go. Pick random. And let's just quickly look at the documentation. I think if we just hover over it, pick random will return a variant, so it we don't have to pass it in anything, and it'll just pick a random. So let's just see if this works. So let's save and close our Starfield and open our Starfield and switch to that. And now there are hotkeys, and look at that. We have a beautiful array of rainbow glowing stars that change color, but we need to make this color change different, because right now we're only getting that color effect when we are getting very close. So we need to increase those distances too in our Starfield. All right, so let's do that, tackle that next problem. All right, so we need access to those shader parameters. And remember the shader parameters, let us go to our, we ditched our mesh instance. So let's make a mesh instance to use as a cheat sheet. So we go to our mesh instance, and you can see under geometry, material override, when we stick a material in there, let's just do a new shader material, we'll get the shader parameters pop up there if we drag in our, I think, all right, we click on that, and then we have to drag in a shader. And let's see if we can find the answer to that. Okay, shader parameters. And we do need to make sure that these shader parameters are exactly right. And so we can see that it is under this. And you can actually right-click and copy property path to get a hold of those. And so if we paste it in, we'll be able to know the exact name of it, because we do have to set them by name. All right, so I want, again, to be able to control that in an export variable. So let's export And we need var. And what were our shader parameters? Let's have a look. So star color 1. So we can call it star color 1. And we can set that equal to a color, and we can well, we're not going to be changing the colors since that's already handled on our material, right? Our materials are already doing that, but we do want to set the glow. But of course, if you wanted to set the parameters in code, you can set them with this, and it's going to be the same as the glow. And I can show you the quick way to get the color parameter is to just click on the color here, and under hex, there's a hex code. Switch that, and that will give you the Godot way. You can just copy and paste, and you can set, so let's set our variable, for example. So we need to set our shader material. So fortunately, we have that shader material, which is this star shader T-res. And we can pull that up here. So now we've accessed the star shader resource. And let us see here. I think, can we do it on the star shader itself, or do we have to make a variable because it's a variable? Star shader dot set. Oh, so okay. So right now it doesn't actually know that it's a star shader. So let us just make a variable called or we could just call it underscore, just lowercase star shader equals colon visual shader. So now we know it's a visual shader, and we could set it equal to star shader. And now I think we can access these. So star shader, and hopefully our autocorrect will set parameter. I thought it was a shader parameter set, but it doesn't look like it. So I think we just have to use the standard set. So we can do set, and here we can do the property, and that property is going to be that cut and paste from there. So oops, color. So let us come to glow, and let us copy the value. Oh, no, not the value. We need to copy the property path and paste it. And we want an export variable, so we'll call it shader glow, or star glow. Let's call it star glow. And so we need an export variable. Sorry, this is the tedious part. Just export var star glow, and let's set it equal to 5, the default. And let's see, what else did we want? We wanted the star fade distance, so we need to copy that property path, and we're going to do star shader dot set star fade distance, and we need an export variable, so we're going to do add export var star fade distance, and set it equal to, let's set it equal to about the size of our star field to start out with, and go from there. And we're also going to need, while I'm at it, star fade intensity. And I think we set that to, let's set that equal to 50 as well. And we will do, so we need, let's just copy these so we don't, so we need this. And we're going to come over here, and actually, rather than having to right click and stuff, you can do Control-Shift-C, and if you right click, you can see the property, the fast action is Control-Shift-C. So we'll do, see if this works, we'll do Control-Shift-C, and we will do star shader dot set quotes, or actually I think it, no, it does not have quotes, dang it. All right, so I'm just using Control to rapidly move between the beginning and end. Control arrow moves you a little bit faster through your mistakes, and we will call this, we'll just copy this here. All right, so now we have our star fade distance and our star fade intensity. And now we need to use this star shader, because right now we're actually just using the star mesh. So before our for loop, because remember, we're not really going to be changing these too much, but we do need to change them for each mesh, for each, material. And so we have to do mi star dot you know what? I think, unfortunately, we are just going to set it here, which is probably not optimal. We could probably do it for each mesh that we're going to do for, each material we're going to do. But since we're using this material override and we're setting it equal here, let's just make our lives easier for now. This might not be the most performant way, but is yet again good enough for government work. But if you're really optimizing, you might want to move some of this stuff out of the for loop. But material override will give us that dot, and so this is the material, and I think we can set the shader. Where is our shader? Our shader is under property shader, so it should. We're not getting the pop-up, but we are just going to set this equal to star shader and see if that works. And so far we don't have any complaints. So we have set the property shader to this new shader that's based on our export variables, so that we can set these in the inspector rather than having to come back to the code. Unfortunately, like I said, you still have to reload the scene every time you update these, but let's just start there and let's kind of go hog wild and see how that works out for us. All right, so let's come back to our 3D viewport, and we should have a whole bunch of new things when we look at the star field, and we do. So let's set the star glow to 10 and see if that makes our stars glow more. Let's set so we have 1,000. Let's crank this up and see if it really works. So let's do what he did. Let's do 12,000 and see. It's gonna certainly pause when it has to run through that for loop when we try and open the scene up again. But let's just see how this goes, and we will make this 500. Let's make it, I don't know. Should we make it 1,000 meters? Let's make it 1,000. 1,000. And actually, remember, that's 2,000, right? Because we're going from negative 1,000 to 1,000. So maybe we should just dial that back down a little. Let's do 750. I got a little overly ambitious here. We'll set the glow to 10, and we'll set this distance to be pretty big too. Let's set it to maybe 500 and 500. Oop, that's 5,000. Let's do 500. Okay. And we are going to save this. We are going to cross our fingers. We are going to close it. We are going to open it. And you can see my editor is paused, but look at that. That is pretty cool, although it's still not fading over. We are not setting our shader parameter correctly, but we have made quite a lovely and gigantic field of stars. And if we click off of it, we can kind of fly through this, but we have not set our shader parameters correctly. So let us go back and investigate. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to pause and see if I can figure this out, and then I'll let you know what the mistake was. All right. Welcome back. I think I finally figured this out. Sorry, it took me a minute, but I think it'll be worth it. So the issue is, if we come back to our material, our mesh instance, and we look at our material, we can actually see we load the shader here, so that was correct. But actually, if you look at where the shader parameter is, and this is probably why you shouldn't follow random people's tutorials, the shader parameter is actually on the material is actually on the material override and on the material itself rather than on the shader. And that was the issue. So we just have to set these shader parameters not on the shader, but on the material, if that makes sense. So because the material holds the shader, the material is what's actually receiving the parameters, and that's where we're going to set these parameters. And if you look here, we're actually setting these parameters not on the shader, which is this stuff here, but on the material itself. So we just need to go through and manipulate the materials. Since we're adding one of these materials in the array, we can do this one of two ways. We can come here and we can go star material1 dot. And here, when we do that, we should get the pop-ups that say get and set shader parameters, and that is what we want. So we can do it that way, but we already went through the trouble of making this array. So I'm going to try and, the mediocre programmer that I am, do this at least here. I mean, we should obviously break this into functions and make this more organized, but we're not going to do that. So we are going to do a for loop over this material array. So we're going to do for material, and we can declare it, and the material is actually a shader material. So we want to make sure we're not just picking the generic material. You can do that, but we want a shader material because that is the right thing in the material array. And we can come in here and do material dot set shader parameter, and we know we have glow, and the glow we are putting in is our star glow, and we need material dot set shader material dot set shader parameter and star fade distance. Unfortunately, whereas before when you did the star material 1 and you do the set shader parameters, it's nice enough to give you the autocomplete of your parameters. Unfortunately, when we're doing it in the loop using this loop variable, we are not so lucky because it's not specific to our exact shader. But we did have star fade distance, which was the name of that one. Excuse me. I'm going to call that star fade distance. And let us do this one. Next material dot set shader parameter star field intensity. And you have to make sure these are spelled correctly, because if you're not, then you will not succeed. Star fade intensity. All right, so now we have, so what we're doing, just to recap, we have made these export variables so we can control them on our in the viewport. We have in the inspector, excuse me, we have loaded all of our materials. We actually don't even need this star shader because that will get loaded along with the materials we are loading. Remember, we have pre-assigned these materials in our material to have the star shader, so we don't need to load that again into the materials because we're going to be manipulating the parameters on the materials themselves. All right, and so let's see, we were glow, star glow was default was 5 and 5, and we have our material set for each, the star material 1, 2, and 3 using this for loop. We're setting each of those shader parameters, and then we are going through our for loop for the number of stars that we can set, and we are making a new mesh instance. We are signing the star mesh, which we loaded from here, into each of those mesh slots, and we are using the material override to pick a random material from our material array. So each of these stars will randomly choose between 1, 2, and 3, and then we are creating a vector field using these negative star field to positive star field. Now, just in case you, for instance, were making that top down like I had showed you at the beginning, in that case we would want a plane, and so remember y is the up axis. So in this case we would probably want to eliminate the negative y, because we don't want stars above us. We just want stars below us. So we would choose this from 0 down, and that would give us a plane that began on the 0 axis, or even maybe a little bit below that, so that we aren't doing that. Actually, I got that backwards, right? We would want this starting at a maximum of 0, and a minimum would be way down below, right? So we wouldn't, like, for instance, if we wanted to make it a plane that never got higher than 0, or let's say -2, we could go from negative Starfield y to -2, and that would make sure that all of the stars are below the plane. But in this case, we're just going to make the box, so we're going to keep it Starfield negative Starfield y to positive Starfield y. But you can use these manipulations to make sure that they're only in one region, either below, to the right, or in front. All right, and then we're just setting the position and then adding it to the scene tree. All right, and I think I just have a bunch of extra spaces, so let's get rid of those. All right, so now, fingers crossed, take 2, this will work. So we're going to save it. We're going to close the Starfield. We are going to reopen the Starfield. And let us go to our 3D model, and we see that it should be working. I did futz with these values, so let's see if, let's make it closer so we can guarantee that we're working. So let's go to the Starfield and let's reset some of these values back to their normal. And we're going to hit save. And we're going to close and reload you. And oh my god, oh yeah, okay. It's because we're in this little box. But we can see that our stars do seem to, the shader does seem to be working with our new parameters. So let's see, let's fly in closer. And where you can see us transitioning yellow. And as we back out from the yellow, do we see you changing? Yep, it's changing to white. I hope you can see that. And we're changing from white to the next color, hopefully. These will start to look pink and stuff, and they are. So you can see they are, in fact, changing colors, so our shader is working. And we can even make this a little bit smaller so we can guarantee that we are doing this correctly. And we're going to close and reopen, and let us see if we are doing this correctly. And as you can see, this is yellow, and it's fading to white, and it's changing to pink. All right. So let's see. Yep, this is getting more and more yellow as we get closer, and it's turning whiter as we get our distance further and further, and it should start changing color even more. Did we reload? We might not have reloaded. Let's close this and reopen it, and let's make sure we are. Yeah, so now we're going from, we're making our transitions a lot faster. So that went from yellow to orange to red. All right, so now let's crank this up. All right, let's do 20,000. And let's do a Starfield of X of, say, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000. Let's turn the star glow to 10, the distance fade to, let's say, 200, and 200. And let's see how this works. And look at that, we haven't even tanked our FPS, right? Let's click off of that so we get rid of that. Let's see, can we see if our shaders are working okay? So here's this really bright yellow ball, and let's move away from it. and it's turning white, and then it's turning. But we do see we're seeing all these different colors, and the colors are changing as we get further and further away from them. Now, obviously, we would pick kind of goofily intense colors, and so we can adjust that as we need, so that it's not quite so crazily rainbowy as I made it. But we do see that our shaders are working. Now, one thing we have lost here is the glow. And the reason for that is, in order for glow to work, we need the world environment node. But if we have it at its default value, we got this bright blue sky, but you can see we've got our glow back, but we've got this bright blue sky in that. So we will have to adjust some parameters if we are going to do this. So we can add this environment to the scene, and we can click on it. Ooh. Oh no. Okay, well, we can go through this. And I think the thing that we really need, background is going to be clear color. That'll pull up the clear color of the background. I don't think we necessarily need any ambient light or reflected light, but let us go down to the glow area, and we're going to enable it to make sure we have a glow enabled, and you can see we already start to see this glow around it, right? If we disable it, no glow, glow. So that is clearly starting to work, but maybe we can do a little better. And for this to work, we just have to kind of futz with these values. So for instance, if you turn up the intensity and the strength, you can see the strength is how wide that's getting, but you can see it's casting it, it's turning all those over here, for example. You can see it's changing the strength. We could probably mess with the bloom a little bit. And I think if we do additive, oh my goodness, now we've really blown it out. But I think if we kind of come down on the strength, we can really start to make these stars a little more starry. I don't know if bloom, let's see, too much bloom is no good either. Maybe like point there, and maybe we can turn the intensity down a little bit. If you turn it too down, it's not great either. So you can mess with these parameters in order to make your stars look exactly how you want them. But of course, as we added the world environment, we did lose some frame rate, but that's okay. These stars are looking pretty dang good. And we have a nice dense star field. I wonder if we can go even more hog wild. Let us see. So now that we have our world environment in here that's set correctly, and we have a nice glow effect, maybe we can change and let's just double check that our colors are fading correctly. It is hard to see at the distance I have put them when you follow an individual star, and you're flying through. But you can see, like for instance, this star, this little red pixel here, like you can definitely see it's changed from red to white to orange, and we are fighting the decimation too, so that might cause things, and you can see we're doing okay. So let's see if we can really, let's do, I don't know, let's do 50,000, and let's do in a space of, what I forgot what I had put before, but let's do 2,000. Let's do a space of 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, and we'll keep the star glow as it is, and we'll maybe make this fade distance, let's make it 400, and let's make the intensity even more, the fade intensity 800. Let's double that, and let's just save it, close it, reload it, and it's taking some time. It's taking its time going through 20,000, the for loop. But let's see, can we do it? Come on, computer. And we did it. And look at that. Our frames, we have not killed our frame rate, but we have made a massive Starfield. And of course, you can make the meshes bigger if these are too small. You know how to do that in Blender now. So you can make them, twice as big or 4 times as big or whatever you want to make them. You can adjust the glow. And I mean, look, let's just crank up. I mean, okay, we flew through that box, and look at how massive this box is. And you can even make it, I mean, this is probably too dense. So we can, make the Starfield, I don't know. Let's do something crazy. Let's do 75,000 stars. Let's make the Starfield 8,000, or let's do, well, remember we're doing doubles, so let's do 4,000, 4,000, 4,000, and we'll make these stars fade over. I think let's just leave that fade at where it is, because we have multiple colors already. And we're going to close, we're going to save our changes, we're going to, oh, what is this complaining about? The node of the root scene is recommended not to be I guess at some point I accidentally changed the transform, so let's just reset that and hit save again, and let us close the Starfield, and let's reopen it. This one is going to take a good minute. Probably pause it until this comes up to hello. Oh boy, might have gone a little overboard, and that's the problem with the tool, right? Is you can crash your editor if you do something like an infinite loop. You will crash the editor because it is just going to spend the whole time doing that infinite loop. So be careful with the tool on the script. Oh boy. So as you can see, when you really start making these big changes, maybe it's, oh, but we got it. We got it. And my goodness, this thing is huge. I mean, it is well beyond the bounding box. But you can still fly up to each individual star. We're still running at 2500 FPS in the editor, so we have not destroyed our performance despite having tons of these mesh instances. And we still get a nice glow when we come up to a star. So I think this is looking pretty neat. I think obviously would recommend that you maybe make them a little bit closer together, a little denser, maybe not as wide, maybe procedurally add some of these Starfield nodes as you get closer, sort of loading them in chunks, sort of ahead of you and behind you if you're doing like a top-down or even a front-on simulator. Because remember, a lot of what's happening is that objects, we have these 12,000 stars, but they're being culled by the time they're less than a pixel. Of course, if we had left them, you can see them kind of shimmering out. So there's certainly some issue with having this many objects, because as we're moving it, some are being drawn in and some are being drawn out. And so if you set the LODs manually, you would have way more control over how that process is being culled. And probably our performance would, I'm curious if our manual LODs, despite shrinking the triangles, would that. So maybe we'll do a bonus video with some manual LODs and then see how our Starfield performs with manual LODs, because these are probably just being culled out of existence. And with the manual LODs, we can set exactly when they'll be completely culled, when we're not going to show any of those instances. And I would imagine that our performance would be much worse with all of these sprinkling things not coming out, and I'm sure it would also look a lot different than it does now. But we can try that on a different day. I think this series has already gone on quite long. I think we're at an hour now. And so, if you managed to make it through this, fantastic. I hope you learned at least a few things about, um, you know, procedurally generating some stars and some using some mesh instances, and some understanding of LODs and some understanding of shaders and changing them. But just remember, you can always just change the colors here on our material. Like for instance, let's take material 1. We'll double click it and we can change this to red. And as you can see, we're already changing the stars. I'm pointing at my screen, but like if you look at this star right here, uh, this one is already, oh, excuse me, this star right here, you can already see it's changing colors, and that's changing a lot of the other stars in the background too. So you can maybe make these colors a little less dramatic, and that will look a lot nicer than what I did. All right, well, good luck. Happy Godot.